School of Rock is a 2003 released comedy directed by Richard Linklater.
Jack Black stars as Dewey Finn, who is kicked out of his band right at the start of the film after a rather overzealous performance. He's very upset because they were just about to enter a battle of the bands, where he was hoping that they would be picked up and suddenly have a glittering music career. Unfortunately, they boot him out because he's too nuts. He's behind on his rent, and his roommate and his roommate's girlfriend are getting a bit fed up paying for him. He's desperate and he doesn't know what to do. And the phone rings, and it's a principal of a prestigious prep school who's actually calling for his roommate, who happens to be a substitute teacher. Dewey pretends to be his roommate, Ned Schneebly, and goes along to the school. Pretends to be a teacher. Having zero experience of being a teacher, just lets the kids basically do whatever they want. He's happy if they just slack off, he doesn't care. Soon he discovers that they're all quite musically talented, or at least enough of them are for him to make a band. That gets his brain working. He thinks, I can get back in Battle of the Bands with these kids. So he teaches them about rock and sticking it to the man, and about pretending to be something you're not. Maybe not a good life lesson, but the rest of it is inspirational, shall we say.
Yes, so week 2 of our inspirational teachers, a little bit different to last week's Kindergarten Cop, where he became a teacher. I mean, both films obviously not quite teachers. Last week he's a cop who goes undercover as a teacher. This time he's a wannabe rock guitarist, slacker, who becomes a teacher somewhat irresponsibly. Fraudulently, yeah, exactly. I'd actually never seen this film before. Have you seen it before?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I think it came out in 2003. It was a big hit, wasn't it?
It was.
It had a musical made after it as well. Was it Andrew Lloyd Webber who did it?
It was. And a TV series as well.
Okay, so big film, and obviously big fan of Richard Linklater. Days of Confusion. I mean, it's interesting because it's kind of, I suppose you can see links to something like Days of Confusion and Slacker, his film, and films like that. But it kind of felt a little bit of an odd choice for him because it's a more of a mainstream comedy. With Jack, I mean, I know he's worked with Jack Black. He worked with him after, didn't he? Bernie. Yeah. So obviously, I came to this. It's one of those things I can't. Is this going to be? Is this going to be any good? I mean, because I have a track record with not liking popular films. But actually, it was okay. It was a little bit ridiculous plot-wise, and it was a little bit unoriginal. You kind of you know where this was going, but I went with it. And I mean, I think that, and the other thing, of course, is I'm a big I grew up listening to heavy metal and stuff like that, but I'm not really a fan of a lot of the music I mean, I was never a fan of. So controversially, I was never a fan of Led Zeppelin. I was never a fan of AC/DC. I was never really a fan of Motorhead. All those kind of classic rock bands wasn't my scene, really. I was more into Sabbath, big fan of Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Priest, that kind of stuff. And then obviously, the metal of the 90s and punk music, I was into that a bit more as well. So the kind of music that is featured in this film was not my thing for a start. I mean, Jack Black is very funny. He's a very good actor. I do enjoy a lot of his performances, but he can make me a little. I mean, I wasn't a fan of Tenacious D, and I know a lot of people like that, so I apologise in advance for that.
I mean, he is. He has got a voice on him. He can sing. And he's a talented musician.
I'm not. Yes, he's a very talented musician. He's got a great voice. He's that whole sequence at the end of High Fidelity is amazing when he does he sings on stage, gets up on stage and does that. He's a great actor. I love his performances right back from he was in the episode of the X-Files way back, and that's a great episode he's in. Nothing against Jack Black, but I do find him sometimes a little bit over the top and a bit much. You know what I mean? He's very OTT, and I think the interesting thing here is. Last week we did Kindergarten Cop, where although that was a Schwarzenegger film, that film was kind of very focused on the kids as well. This is a Jack Black film. It is Jack Black. He's in every scene pretty much. You can't get away from him. But that's fine because that's here. And I quite enjoyed the film. There are certainly moments in here which made me laugh a lot. And love it or not, he kind of is a bit of an inspiration to the kids. Kind of gets them out. I mean,
he's teaching them about rock.
He's teaching them about rock. Yeah. Although I was kind of expecting this nice. Like the rock history part, I was looking forward to that because there was, he's like with the the blackboard,
flow charts
or
and things,
with flow charts and all that. There was some cool like sound gardens on the Alice in Chains, and then they just stuck a montage over it, and I was like, oh.
But it would have been a bit of a boring scene for anyone who's not particularly fussed about those bands.
I suppose so. I went with it. I enjoyed it for what it was. You know, I've seen it now. I probably won't watch it again. It's it wasn't. I'm not saying it was that bad. No.
You've ticked it off the list.
I ticked it off the list. Yeah, it was good fun for what it was.
The plot is, you always know where it's going to end up. It's not, it's no great mystery. I mean, it's like sports movies, isn't it? It's a similar sort of thing where at the end there's a big competition and either they're going to win or not. And it's the journey. And I mean, a bit like Kindergarten Cop. He's a changed person somewhat by the end of it.
Yeah.
And the kids definitely are. There's lots of stuff going on about not necessarily rebelling against authority, but embracing talents and not being because there's kids who are talented in various things, but their parents, you mustn't do that, or you're only, the guy the kid that plays the guitar, lead guitar, he obviously has classical guitar lessons, but his father's like, no, you can't play rock guitar, you can't play electric guitar, and it's like, just let him embrace his talent.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I'm totally for that in cinema and in life in general as well. And there's clearly, there's ideas here, themes here that turn up in other similar kind of Dead Poet Society. There is a character in that has a similar kind of relationship with his father, and whether this is kind of riffing on that a little bit, I don't know. But there are other kind of school-like films that dip into these themes. There's a girl in there that I think she wants to be a singer, and she's a bit quiet, she's a bit shy, so she doesn't put her hand up when he asks for people that can sing. And then later on, he gets her to sing, and then there's a moment where she can't get up and sing because she's nervous, and that's something that can affect performers, and and especially kids at school. And he gives us some kind of. He talks about Aretha Franklin, and he gives us kind of lines of, he gives us confidence, and she's able to get up and sing. So that side of it is great. There's a lot of us, when we're children at school, we find, I always found it trouble, being good at anything or whatever, or finding confidence in my own creativity. And it's always nice that's what you want, is that kind of, that teacher that does inspire you to maybe break out a little bit, whether it's rebelling against society or it's just being able to be who you are as a person. And, our theme of the month is inspirational teachers, and he is certainly being an inspirational teacher here, fraudulent or not. So, no, I'm not saying, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was it was good fun. It made me laugh numerous times. I just think I think maybe and especially for being a Richard Linklater film, I'm not saying I expected any more than it was, but I think I was slightly a little bit of trepidation going into it, because obviously I'm a huge fan of Linklater's some of his films, and I didn't get that from this film. It
wasn't quite as indie as maybe a lot of his
maybe
other stuff.
Not. Yeah, maybe it was a little bit too mainstream for my liking. It's good fun, and also it's got an amazing performance from Joan Cusack, who plays the head teacher, and she is always. She's so great in all her films. She tends to always plays like a supporting role, but she's always so watchable. She's so funny. She's so. And she was in High Fidelity as well. She's John Cusack's sister, but she's always so. She's another one who is great with comedy and comedy timing, and it's quite amusing actually, because she does a similar. There's a moment in there where she kind of starts having this conversation with him, and she starts doing this whole line which she's saying, I used to be fun. I used to be very funny, which is interesting because her character does a very similar thing in Say Anything, the film with her brother John Cusack, directed by Cameron Crowe. In that she's his sister in that, as she's in real life. She's got a kid, and she's like, I used to be fun, didn't I? And he was like, yeah, it used to be fun. Which I just thought, because amusing, kind of felt like a link back to that film, which is a great film too. So, she kind of won it over for me a little bit. I think having her in there as well was a great call.
I mean, everyone's really great. I mean, you've got Sarah Silverman in there as roommate's girlfriend. She's just horrible.
She is horrible.
And Mike White as the real Ned Schneebly. He wrote it. He's actually worked with, he's worked with Jack Black a few times. And written loads of other films, and he's got a new TV show out at the moment that he's written and directed and created, basically, called The White Lotus, which I think was on HBO in the US and is on Sky here, which is apparently very good. I haven't checked it out yet, but it was on my radar, and yeah, definitely want to check it out.
I was reading that he's not a fan of classic rock. So, but I think Jack Black moved into an apartment next to his, and he was like up all night playing loud music and stuff, and so he kind of, that's I suppose where he met him, and kind of wrote this part for him. And Richard Linklater wasn't. He himself said he wasn't. I don't think he was going to direct originally, and he wasn't going to direct. And he said unless, and I think this is the other kind of good thing about it, he wouldn't direct it unless all the kids could play their own instruments.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what's quite interesting about the film is that all the kids are musicians. You know, they're musicians first, not actors. And they're all great, and it's kind of, that makes it kind of authentic if you know that they are actually playing their instruments and they're not just acting along. Obviously, Jack Black himself is a musician and a very good musician, and so that kind of gave it, I don't know, it gave it kind of an authenticity to it, which I enjoyed. And obviously, sadly, Kevin Clark, who played Freddie, the drummer, sadly died like last year. It was a few months ago. It was a few months ago. Very recently. Yeah. Which is really sad. I think he was 32. Which is crazy because films only came out.
I know. I was looking at the cast and all these kids are like 30 now. I was like, oh my god, that makes me feel old.
We're really old.
But I think he didn't do any other films, but he did. He knew how to drum before he was in the film, but he carried on drumming and he was in various bands over the years. And a lot of the other kids, they haven't really done any acting roles since, but they have. They carry on playing their instruments and stuff. I mean, probably the most famous out of the kids is Miranda Cosgrove, who plays Summer. She's been in a few films, but she's mostly famous for being in iCarly, which is a Nickelodeon show. But they're all great in it, and like you said, the fact that they can play the instruments gives it that air of authenticity. It's just a feel-good film. There's nothing horrible in it. And obviously, the fact that he's pretending to be a teacher, gives a little bit of a sort of dodgy undertone, but there's nothing nefarious going on.
Then I think, and similar to sort of talking about Kindergarten Cop last week, he is kind of although he's there undercover, he's doing a job.
And the principal knows that he is undercover, which is something.
But again, it still feels a little bit like he's kind of he's we shouldn't really play with children's emotions in such a way, but. They are both resolved. That comes out. It comes out in this film that he is being fraudulent, and it is resolved in a kind of satisfying way. So it's not like it's not something that's kind of swept under the carpet kind of thing. It is dealt with, and it works. It being a little bit mainstream for my liking didn't help, and I do find him. I think he's great. There were many Jack Black things that I really enjoy him in. Orange County is in that film, which I really enjoyed his performance in that film. But then there are often times where I found him he can be quite annoying. I know maybe he's supposed to, and he's kind of supposed to be annoying in this, isn't he? That's his whole thing. He's kicked out of the band for he's doing the whole, kind of like that.
He's basically being himself on stage, flinging himself around.
He's completely over the top, and it's a very funny moment because he's, they're obviously just trying to make it, but he looks like he's made it, and then he does that hilarious thing when he kind of stage dives and they all kind of split apart. He smashes in, which made me laugh out loud. Actually, I thought that was a great scene. So he's being annoying in it. He's being that kind of annoying Jack Black. Which he does very well. But no, he's an incredibly talented guy.
But
he's very funny. He's a good actor. He's able to do both straight, dramatic and comic roles as well as each other.
I mean, once he starts to teach the kids about rock, you can see that is genuinely him because he genuinely is a fan of this music.
Totally,
and is totally into it. And if you're not a fan, then maybe it might convert you to listen to some of these bands. So yeah, definitely inspiration, even though he's not technically a teacher.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it worked for me. I don't know what they did with the musical, which just seemed a bit. It was quite. I kind of felt that irony there because of there's a whole scene in there where he's kind of going against the man and how kind of being true to yourself, but then corporations take over a little bit, like MTV. He was kind of slamming MTV a little bit for kind of taking what he loved and twisting it all around. But then, of course, here comes this kind of film that then is picked up by Andrew Lloyd Webber, and bang, it's thrown into the West End and Broadway and stuff like that. So I don't know quite what the show did. Don't know.
I mean, it's just
huge success.
It's just the corporate machine. I mean, it's something like Fight Club, which is completely sort of against the corporations and things like that, but it's made by 20th Century Fox, so it's like one of the biggest film studios there was before it was bought by Disney.
Always the way, yeah. I mean, you can stay as true to yourself as much as you can.
Yeah. But the corporations will come for you and
eventually
homogenise everything about it. Yeah.
Well,
So Fight Club is now owned by Disney. I mean, how bizarre is that?
It's just a nice, well put together, it's got a heart, and a good inspirational teacher movie, and we have it on DVD.
Yeah, I've got it on DVD. Yeah, there's quite a few extras on there. There's a commentary by Jack Black and Richard Linklater, and there's also a kids commentary as well, with all the kids chiming in. Also, there's a little clip of Jack Black's pitch to Led Zeppelin, because basically Led Zepp are famous for not wanting their music to be used much in movies, so they filmed a little performance that they then sent to the members of Led Zepp, basically pleading for them to allow them to use the music, which they obviously said yes. There doesn't seem to be a Blu-ray in the UK, but there is in the US, so
it's strange.
Which I think carries over all the extras, so might as well go for that if you can.
I mean, again, you do wonder where that's the trouble with films that are very heavy with soundtracks with music on. They sometimes run into difficulties.
They do. That's true. Yeah.
Copyright and whatnot.
I mean, it's on Netflix as well in the UK at the moment, so you can check it out on there too.
So that was School of Rock, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button up there, and don't forget to push the bell for notifications. There's other videos to check out over there. Come and find us on social media, and join us again next week for another video.